Once upon a time, under the burning sun of the African savanna, where endless grasslands stretched far beyond the horizon and the acacia trees painted delicate shadows across the land, lived a young lion named Lenny. At first glance, Lenny looked like the perfect example of strength and courage. His mane was golden like fire at sunset. His paws were large and powerful, and his roar echoed through the plains like rolling thunder. But there was something that no one expected from such a majestic animal. Lenny was afraid of almost everything. A rustling bush made him jump, a buzzing bee made him run, and even his own shadow under the full moon gave him chills. Other lions teased him, and many animals wondered how someone so strong on the outside could feel so weak inside. Lenny wanted nothing more than to be brave, but his heart always beat faster than his courage, and deep down, he wondered if he would ever change. The savannah, however, was a place full of challenges, and one day it put Lenny to the test. A long drought struck, drying up rivers and leaving animals desperate for water. The watering hole, a sacred place for every creature, became the only source of life. But danger lurked. A band of fierce hyenas had claimed the watering hole as their own. They frightened the zebras, chased away the antelopes, and even mocked the elephants. Word spread that no one could approach without being attacked. The animals gathered under a baobab tree to discuss the situation, and all eyes turned to Lenny. After all, wasn't the lion supposed to be the king of beasts, the protector of the savannah? But when they asked him for help, Lenny felt his chest tighten. His legs trembled, his mane stood on end, and his mind screamed at him to run. But then he looked into the eyes of the small meerkats who held their children close, thirsty and trembling. And something deep inside him whispered, "It's time to try." That night, Lenny couldn't sleep. The stars twinkled like diamonds in the dark sky, and the moon illuminated the savannah with a soft silver glow. He paced in circles, thinking of all the times fear had stopped him before. What if I fail again? What if I can't do it? He muttered to himself. But then he remembered what his mother once told him when he was just a cub. True courage, isn't the absence of fear, Lenny. It's acting even when fear is still there. Repeating those words to himself, he made a decision. At dawn, he would face the hyenas, no matter how much his heart raced. He knew he couldn't let the animals down, not this time. When the sun rose, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Lenny walked slowly toward the watering hole. Every step felt heavier than the last. Birds flew overhead, warning others that something important was about to happen. The zebras stopped grazing, the elephants formed a circle, and the monkeys climbed trees to get a better view. Everyone's eyes were on Lenny, but this time, instead of hiding, he kept going. His mane flowed with the wind, and though fear still lived in his chest, determination burned stronger. Then, from the other side of the watering hole, came the laughter of the hyenas, sharp and mocking. "Look who's here," one of them sneered. "The coward lion who runs from butterflies." Their laughter echoed, but Lenny didn't stop. Standing tall, Lenny looked at the pack. His heart pounded so loudly that he thought the whole savannah could hear it. But then he took a deep breath, dug his claws into the ground, and let out the mightiest roar he had ever produced. At first, his voice cracked, but then it grew deeper, stronger, shaking the earth beneath their feet. The sound traveled across the plains, startling birds from their nests, and silencing the hyenas' laughter. For the first time, they saw in Lenny's eyes not fear, but fire. The leader of the hyenas growled and tried to step forward, but Lenny stood firm, his tail swishing, his head held high, and his second roar was even louder than the first. One by one, the hyenas hesitated, then backed away. Finally, they turned and fled into the distance, defeated not by claws or teeth, but by courage. The savannah erupted in joy. The zebras kicked their hooves in the air, the elephants trumpeted loudly, and the monkeys chanted Lenny's name from the treetops. The little meerkats hugged each other, their eyes sparkling with admiration. For the first time in his life, Lenny felt something powerful within him, not the absence of fear, but the strength to face it. He realized that courage isn't about never being scared. It's about protecting others even when you are. From that day on, Lenny was no longer called the scared lion. He became the brave protector of the savanna, inspiring young animals everywhere. And though storms still made him nervous, and dark nights still gave him chills, he remembered the day he faced the hyenas, and he knew he could do it again. As days passed, Lenny's courage continued to grow. One afternoon, a violent storm hit the savanna. Thunder boomed across the plains, and lightning lit up the dark sky. The smaller animals panicked, running in every direction. Old Lenny would have been the first to hide in his cave, trembling until the storm passed. But this time was different. He stood tall at the entrance of his den, watching the frightened animals and realizing they needed comfort. He walked into the storm, not to fight it, but to guide others to safety. With his steady steps, he led the meerkats to shelter, calmed the zebras with his presence, and even stood beside the elephants until the skies cleared. Though the storm still frightened him, he proved once more that courage is choosing to act for others, even when fear remains. Word of Lenny's bravery spread far and wide. Birds carried the story beyond the savanna, and even animals in distant lands spoke of the lion who turned fear into strength. Parents told their little ones his story as a bedtime tale, teaching them that bravery doesn't mean being fearless, but doing the right thing despite the trembling inside. Lenny became more than a protector, he became a symbol of hope. Proof that anyone can find courage, no matter how small or scared they feel. And under the starry skies of the savanna, Lenny finally slept peacefully, knowing that his journey had only begun, and that courage would always walk beside him. If you enjoyed this story of the scared lion, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel, and share it with friends so they too can discover the power of courage. And tell us in the comments, what fear have you faced that made you stronger in the end?